Good morning, children, and welcome to my assembly. I hope you're all well and that you've had a good weekend. The peace of the Lord be with you all. Let's just take a moment to think about our mottos. Love God, love others, and let your light shine. I hope that you're finding lots of ways to demonstrate your following those mottos, children. Whether you're at home doing remote learning or whether you're at school at the moment. We're really looking forward to welcoming everybody back next Monday on the 8th of March. I can't wait to see you all again. Very excited about that. Now, Mr. Harris led a very exciting and interesting assembly last week about trust, which I'm sure you all enjoyed. And he used this picture at the beginning and asked you to think about what this picture had to do with trust. So just have a look at that for a moment. What's going on in this picture? Who is having to trust who? And why do they need to trust each other? Now I'm going to tell you a story about trust. It's probably a story you know. It's actually one of Aesop's fables, and it's called The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And the story tells about a boy whose job it was to watch the sheep for his village. So he lived in a village, and up on the hill close to the village, all the village's sheep were kept. And this was a really important job because the sheep were needed by the village for food, but also to sell. So they were very precious commodity to the village, so very, very precious to the village, and they needed to be looked after. And the boy's job was to make sure that the sheep were safe and getting enough to eat from the grass and just generally being looked after and not getting lost. And one of the key things he had to do was to look out for wolves, because wolves would have been very, very dangerous for the sheep, and wolves would have wanted to get close to the sheep. So the boy would have had to keep an eye out for any wolves. And if he saw a wolf, his job was to shout very loudly and cry for help, "Wolf, wolf!" and shout as loud as he could so that the villagers would hear. And then they would come running up the hill to get rid of the wolf and make sure that the sheep were kept safe. Now, it was an important job, but it was probably a bit boring as well, children. If you can imagine that you were doing this job, you were stuck on this hill on your own, no other children or other people around, and you were watching the sheep all day to make sure that they were safe, keeping a lookout all day. I think you would have found that quite boring, and that's what happened with this boy. So he was finding it boring, and he decided that he'd have some fun. So he thought, I know what I'll do is I'll shout wolf, wolf, and all the villagers will come running, and that will be very, very funny, and will stop me from feeling so bored. So that's what he did. There was no wolf, but he started screaming at the top of his voice, "Help! Wolf! Wolf! Wolf!" Now, of course, the villagers came running up the hill. All the people in the village came running up the hill to get rid of this wolf that the boy was shouting about. But when they got there, all they could see were all their sheep and the boy laughing at them and saying, "Ha, ha, ha, look what I made you do." Isn't that funny? Well, children, I don't think the villagers did find it very funny, because they all had things to do in the village, and they were busy doing those things, and they'd come up because they were worried about the sheep. So they all went back down to the village to get on with the rest of their day. But then the boy did it again. He thought, that was very funny, wasn't it? Let me do that again. Let me see if I can get them all to come up again. So he did it again. He shouted, "Wolf, wolf, wolf!" And all the villagers came running up again. And this time they were even more cross and angry about it, because there was no wolf. But the boy still thought that this was a great way of spending the day. Rather than doing what he was supposed to be doing, he found it a way to relieve his boredom. So the villagers trudged back down to the village again, more angry than ever. Then a bit later, children, there actually was a wolf. I've got a picture here of a wolf. And the boy saw the wolf and did what he was supposed to do. He shouted, "Help! Help! Wolf! Wolf! Wolf!" But of course, nothing happened. No one came. Because for 2 times they'd come up and there had been no wolf. So they thought that the boy was playing another trick on them. So all the villagers just stayed down in the village and carried on doing what they were doing. So of course the wolf went completely all over the flock and caused all sorts of trouble. And the sheep either ran away or were killed by the wolf. And of course the boy was devastated and very, very upset. And he didn't go back down to the village that evening. So the villagers thought, well, what's happened? Where is he? They went up and found the boy very upset, surrounded by lots of sheep who had been killed by the wolf, or sheep gone missing because they'd run away. And of course, this had happened because the boy had cried wolf twice before when there was no wolf. And this is a really good story about trust, because the boy had shown the villagers that they could not trust him. So when there really was a wolf, they didn't believe him. They thought he was playing another joke, that he was lying again to get their attention, and so they didn't come. But then they discovered that actually there had been a wolf and their flock had been destroyed. So this story tells us how important it is to be truthful and honest so that people trust us. So I've got some questions here, children, about trust. What do you think makes a person trustworthy? One thing is being someone who tells the truth, because if people know that you always tell the truth, then when you tell them something really important, they will believe what you're saying because they know that you're an honest person. Is there anything else that makes a person trustworthy? Possibly someone who always does kind things. Because if someone is sometimes unkind or unpredictable in their behavior, then people find it hard to trust them. Who do you trust, children? Just have a think for a minute. Who do you trust? Why do you trust them? What is it about them that means that you feel you can trust them? And do you think other people trust you? And if you do, why do you think that? Why do they trust you? What is it about you, children, that leads to other people to trust you? Now, when we're talking about trust and God, I thought that these pictures might help a little bit, because this is a small part of a very big painting. The hands are a small part of a very big painting in a very famous chapel, which is like a small church at the Vatican, where the Pope lives, and it's called the Sistine Chapel. And this painting on the walls of the Sistine Chapel is by a very famous artist called Michelangelo, and he painted it around the year 1508. But this bit of the hands is showing 2 people's hands. It's showing the hand of God almost touching the hand of Adam. And of course, the Bible tells us that Adam was the first human on earth. And the Bible tells us that God created Adam. So what this painting is showing is the power of God going into Adam's hand and creating life. And I think hands are really important when we think about trust and God. I'll come back to the hands in a minute, but before that, this is an American dollar, which is like it's money that you can use in America, and they use dollars there. We have pounds, don't we, in our country, we have pounds and pence. In America, they have dollars and cents. And this is a $1 note. So this note is worth $1. But can you have a look at it and see? Can you see the word trust anywhere on that $1 note? Did you see it? It says, "In God we trust." And there are people all over the world who trust God and have trust in God. And when we're talking about God and trust, we sometimes talk about him holding the world in his hands. Not literally like this picture shows, but the picture helps us to imagine God holding our world in his hands and looking after our world. And how we can trust God to look after us and look out for us. And here we see a child's hand being held by an adult. And we tend to hold hands with people we trust, don't we? So this is showing that relationship of trust through the hands being held. So shall we prepare ourselves for prayer? Now, part of our prayer this morning is from a very famous prayer, which you may have heard before. But it's really about us trusting God to help us and care for us, but also helping us to understand the things that we can do ourselves, the things that we can change ourselves, but also how some problems are too big for us to solve on our own. And we need to have people we trust to help us with those problems. So can you have a think for a minute, children, about who you trust and who trusts you? What is it about your personality that means that other people can trust you? Is there anything you could change so that more people trust you? Perhaps being more honest all the time, or always being kind so that people know they can trust you to be kind to them. Trustworthy God of love, peace, and joy, grant us the strength to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the knowledge to know the difference. Help us to trust you with our worries and concerns so that we can feel your love and protection. Amen. Now, children, I've chosen a great song today. Our God is a great big God. And it fits in with what we're talking about because it shows how people all over the world trust God because he is so powerful and strong. So the song talks about him being taller than a skyscraper, deeper than a submarine, and wider than the universe, to show just how much he can be trusted to look after and care for us. So I'm going to put the song on now. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and he holds us in his hands. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God. Our God is a great big God, and he holds us in his hands. He is higher than the skyscraper, and he's deeper than a submarine. So children, I hope you enjoyed joining in with that song, and I hope that you have enjoyed our assembly today. I hope you have a great day and a great week, and I will see you very, very soon. Take care. Bye.